Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus, and on tonight's video we're talking about how even very basic non-materialism is leading to incredible technological breakthroughs, namely quantum computing. And so this is especially interesting, I think, for some of you guys who may not fully understand exactly what quantum computing is. And I'll describe it in my own layman understanding in this video. But for people who are not aware, this is a non-materialist concept, and you may find sort of standard academia, the orthodoxy, trying to retrofit this concept into materialist science, but it doesn't fit. This is stuff that goes way further and way beyond what conventional physics, conventional science is all about. And that, of course, relates to what we usually talk about on this channel, which is life after death, spirituality, the objective evidence for these types of things, because those subjects are also involving elements of physics way beyond what was our previous understanding. So before we get into this topic and the article, if you go down and hit that subscribe button, it really helps keep the channel going. A lot of you guys are not getting updates in your YouTube feed of new videos, and that's probably going to keep happening. You may want to hit the notification bell as well as the subscribe button if you want to know when a new kind of long form podcast episode like this comes out for you to listen to. Of course, you can also listen to this stuff while you're driving a car. There's definitely ways to do that. If you search online for, let's say, YouTube to MP3, you can actually snatch up these episodes and play them on your phone or anything like that. So it is something, if you're interested in these topics, to do if you're trying to find a way to catch up with the content here, because there is a lot of content on this channel that goes back now a couple of years, many subjects that you may find interesting. So if you're new around here, I encourage you to go back into the archives and check out some thumbnails and kind of see what interests you, because this is an ongoing discussion, and there's still lively comment discussions happening on videos I put up a year ago, still happening here on this channel. So it's worth taking a look around. And one last thing, of course, if you want to get involved, work with me personally, you can always become a patron. Join the private patron group, the meetups, or have unlimited coaching with me if you sign up. That's at afterlifetopics.com/university. Helps me do this work while I also deal with other issues, health issues, and crazy times that we're living in. So I always really appreciate the support you guys have given to keep this whole thing going. All right, with that message out of the way, let's take a look at this article by Discover Magazine. The quantum internet will blow your mind. Here's what it will look like. The next generation of the internet will rely on revolutionary new tech, allowing for unhackable networks and information that travels faster than the speed of light. So there was once upon a time, 15, 20 years ago, I used to see a lot of articles coming out by names that some of us may be familiar with, names like Shermer or P.Z. Myers, or quite a few of those types of people who make a living from promoting a materialism narrative. And an article I used to see a lot was some form of saying that people are trying to force fit woo into quantum phenomena. And I remember one article, I believe it was by Shermer. I believe the title may have been Quantum Quackery. I believe it came out on Scientific American maybe 20 years ago. I remember reading it on an airplane. And I don't fully know if he addressed this particular point with a double slit experiment, but I will say this, and I think actually he might have. It's been a long time. My memory is a bit hazy. The point is that there was this narrative that we'd been seeing for a while, which is that, for example, the double slit experiment doesn't actually mean that there's anything going on that's defying physics. It's more like there are some errors happening in how data is being recorded, and or it's something that's adjustable. It does not actually mean that a particle changes based upon human observation, or that the spooky effect at a distance really is happening quite the way that we think it's happening, that two objects can magically always know which direction they're pointing, to summarize a very complicated subject with a very stupid layman description. But the point is that I used to see a lot of these articles by these people doing kind of damage control, because this topic upends the whole physicalist paradigm completely, and they know it, and they've tried to cover it up for as long as possible, throw some mud on it, throw some shade on it. And this has been going on for a long time. I mean, spooky action at a distance, that was Einstein, I believe. So I mean, this stuff dates back 70, 80 years, right? But it was always theoretical. I believe Einstein didn't think it was actually possible. And I can't go into this history of the science because I'm not up to speed on all of that. I just know about the effect, what happens, the double slit experiment, which involves the way particles are basically processed and shot at something, and then observing that there's been a change based on the quantum phenomena that occurs, the effects of I guess you could say like bilocation, non-location of particles, that they have the ability to not only be affected by observation, but they have the ability to automatically be what's the correct phrasing, to be interconnected, to be tied together with their adjoining particles. So this is a very, very unusual concept, which used to be in science fiction. So in science fiction, you remember there's a lot of these cheesy films where they're out in far away in the galaxy, and then they can just call up home base, home command, as if there's no speed of light separating the distances. So maybe Star Trek comes to mind. So how do they call up Federation when they're on the other side of the galaxy? Doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it's one of those things that you just suspend your disbelief, because we all know things have to go at the speed of light, and that is the speed limit of the universe. What is it, like 328,000 miles per second or something like that. We used to have a coffee mug that said like speed limit 328,000 miles per second. It's not just the limit, it's the law. I think that was the coffee mug I had a long time ago. So we've all been rooted in that way of thinking, and then it turns out all along you can go faster than light, and you can program a computer to operate on those principles because of this spooky effect at a distance. When, yes, the correct terminology would be entangled. When you take one particle that is entangled with another particle, and they will always know which way they're facing. So if a particle A is pointing this way, particle B will always be pointing that way. And they'll always be able to recognize that. So if you take one particle A, and put particle B literally on the other side of the universe, they will always be behaving in a corresponding manner, going like this. What does that mean? Why is that a non-materialist concept, and why do those skeptic arbiters of science, why does it bother them so much? Because we're looking at the universe suddenly seeming like it's a lot more abstract than we thought it was. So we used to think there's all these hard rules in place, and that's the way it is. Consciousness and observation have no effects, which is also part of these concepts, the observer effect, being able to alter a particle's position based on it being observed. That's also part of this. So we used to think that there's all these rigid rules in place that create the world around us. And that is, in fact, materialism is that life is governed by these extremely solid, highly testable, highly quantifiable ways of looking at the universe. And that anything involving consciousness, for example, has no relevance. And these strict rules, you cannot get around them. So part of materialism means is that something you're looking at is quote solid and quote real. It's made of material matter. Matter is more predominant. Consciousness, by the way, is a byproduct. It's not what the existence is all about. Existence is really based upon material physics. Consciousness is like this illusion that just came into being by accident and allows us to perceive the greater reality, which is matter, the greater reality, which is dirt. So in the greater reality of the universe, it's all governed by hardline, strict, rigid ways of thinking. And there's no room for any of this airy-fairy stuff where you can, for example, think about something and something changes, make a miracle happen, go anywhere you want, teleport, go from one spot to the other spot instantly. This is all, to the skeptic establishment, wishful thinking at best, maybe some kind of heresy at worst. And quantum topics have always been on the fringes, and they've always bothered some of these people because it's possible to start poking holes in the materialist framework. And so there's a lot of authors who have done this. There was that old film, What the Bleep Do We Know? And that really got on a lot of physicists and scientists and materialist skeptics' nerves because it was kind of taking the subjects of quantum physics and co-opting it into certain spiritual subjects, which they really don't like. And even quantum physicists, they're still again trying to shoehorn materialism into it. Like, yeah, all this amazing magical abstract stuff can happen, but yeah, it's still a completely material universe with ruled by randomness and meaninglessness and matter. But anyway, the point is that the double slit experiment was and always has been an experiment in a level of higher non-materialist physics. It's always been that way. And when you begin applying that with practical technology, you end up with something like the quantum internet. So this article by Discover goes into the progress of, we have an Eden Figueroa, who has worked for several years on a quantum processing unit, which is working. The only thing holding them back from being able to have full instantaneous data transfer are basically, according to this article, some new tubing and some new crystal schematics or some things that they have to add to this unit to be able to start working on it. And what I like about this article so much, about this Figueroa guy, is that he just keeps saying, look, and by the way, here's the diagram on the screen from the article, testing entanglement, and we actually see the double slit experiment here being performed. But this Figueroa guy, he keeps trying to insist, look guys, it's actually really simple. Particles can do this. You just have to trap them and be able to turn the information that's being sent, the double slit, or rather the entangled information. So you have one particle doing this, one particle doing that. You just have to convert that to some zeros and ones, like computers do anyway. And then you have your quantum computer using these basically new rules of physics, which obviously they're not new at all. Just finally we're focusing on them and we're aware of them. But all you have to do is just convert that to some zeros and ones, and now you have quantum processing, and you could be on one side of the universe and make a phone call to somebody on the other side of the universe. Now, this is going to make our science fiction future not only a lot more possible, but a lot more science fiction-y. So we will someday be living in that science fiction universe where you say, you make a phone call to base command back on Earth to the Federation, and you're out on some faraway planet, requesting a distress signal or something. All that will be possible probably in a few years. That's what we're looking at. All because of people applying non-materialist physics to create technology that is better than any of our existing technology. We're putting money and economics and competition and capitalism into the process because every security firm on Earth wants their hands on 100% secure information using quantum processing technology. So someday you're going to be using this stuff and taking it for granted because your Skype phone call is going to be powered by quantum physics, and there will be no latency, no delay. But then the same will be when we're sending probes out to space and then getting a live feed of Pluto, and it's there's no delay, because that's what we're looking at because of non-material physics. I'll leave this video off with this last question: what else can be created with non-material physics, and is it really non-material? Is it, to go to our last videos that I put up talking about dualism and non-dualism, is what's material actually non-material? Perhaps, but can we really draw distinctions between these two subjects? Is it possible that materialists are true? Do you have all this material stuff that is real and solid and testable, but also non-materialist concepts are correct at the same time? Is maybe everything just part of this great thing that is, and material stuff is totally real and non-material stuff also fits in together? There shouldn't be this separation or these political disagreements about it. What really is material? What really is non-material? And where does the subject of an afterlife fit into that as well? So when we have experiences leaving our bodies, for example, or leaving our bodies and teleporting with our minds, doesn't that make a lot more sense in the perspective of the fact that all matter, every single particle that exists in every single thing around us, whether it's whether it's, I don't know, my body, or this bottle of hand sanitizer that's creating superbugs by using it all the time, or this box of wheat thins, or whatever random stuff I pick up off my cluttered desk. Every single item is composed of particles that have the ability to operate faster than the speed of light. And it doesn't operate instantaneously. Doesn't that make the concepts of like materialization, dematerialization, transportation, astral projection, other worlds, like it starts to make a little more sense, doesn't it? All right, if you want to get involved, you can pick up books like on the topic of the afterlife, Understanding Life After Death, or the Afterlife and Beyond, over at afterlifetopics.com. Stay tuned for my next book, which I am working on. I really appreciate you guys who are patrons, because between being sick and not always being very productive, then when I am productive, working all day on books and research, it's difficult to sometimes put food on the table. So I really appreciate you guys who have been patrons for so long and supporting this stuff. And I'll try to get more videos out and try to make a bigger impact for you guys in getting this information and the new sciences and the new world out to the public, even in this tiny way, in this tiny channel. That's it for now. I'll see you guys on the next video.